What is up, DBS community? This is Markus, Danny, and Shane with the GnG Elite DBS podcast. We're back today with just a simple video on the decks we would pick if we were going to go play in Philly this weekend. We're unfortunately not going to be there, but if we were going to be there, these are the decks we're going to play, and we're going to be starting with Shane's deck, which is mono blue or blue black Janemba, whatever you want to call it. So first we'll let Shane start with this list and explain some stuff to us, some of his thought processes, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, let me actually take this. I'll push the top real quick so I can actually look at the list while.
Sure.
Man, it's almost like you should have done that a little bit ago.
Hey, hush. I didn't think about it till just now. Alright, can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Alright, so the whole theory behind playing Janemba is I feel like it has one of the best matchup spreads in the meta right now. Granted, we haven't tested a whole lot, but in testing, no matchup really feels awful, except for obviously like hand control, but so far it doesn't seem to be super relevant. And even in that case, like against Slug, if you just sideboard Tau, Slug's not that big a deal.
Notably, there is no Tau on your sideboard.
Right, I don't expect Slug to be super popular. So, and the thing with the matchup spreads is like, well, nothing really feels great either, but nothing feels bad. So like everything feels like 65-35 or 50-50 at worst. And if 50-50 is at worst, then you can typically outskill your opponent to the win and thus do well.
That's a pretty fair assessment.
That's probably why I would play the deck. First off, I've got 2 Champas, mainly just 4 ways to end the game. The deck is accidentally well at being somewhat aggro, and being able to see a Champa on time to end the game can be important. 8 Pseudos, just because we're playing Janemba, obviously. 1 Unyielding, just to untap and go hard with Childish Heart when we want to. My Janemba split's a little awkward compared to what most people are used to. Danny's already kind of commented on that. We got 3 Demon Swords, 2 Agents, and 4 Reality Benders. We don't want to go as hard on Childish and Agent, simply because they get hit by the counterplays, and that's not good. And while Demon Sword is still good because deflect and removal is important, Reality Bender allows us to keep energy up for our counterplays, so that's why we're maxing out on him. Let's see. I've got a small Toki Toki engine, kind of like what Daehan's been doing, with 2 Toki Toki, 2 Supreme Kai time regulators for blockers against like certain matchups where you want to have that blocker, and a single Kami. Ideally, I'd want to have another Kami, but something had to get cut, and so we went down to 1 Kami. 3 Supreme Kai time disruptors just to stop the aggro decks. 2 Overwhelm Bardocks as a way to get to cards easier. You know, you dig faster and it helps fuel sparking for Dimension Magic.
I like that it also can set up like an all too easy in your drop if you don't want to hold it in your hand.
Correct. 4 super combos, of course, and then this is kind of like the weird spot. I'm not too sure how I feel about all too easy yet. It very well could just end up becoming like 2 Weesis coercions.
I think
but for right now, it's all too easy.
Yeah, I think considering the way your Gogeta 7 matchup is, it's a pretty fair card to have in your deck.
Right. 4 Dimension Magic because it's OP. 4 Sensu Being because it's OP. And then 3 You're Wide Open. This card's fantastic. I think a lot of people are sleeping on this card in Janemba specifically. Like, yes, it just bounces them back to their hand, but that's super relevant. Like, you're playing against Chain Attack Zeno, okay? You're wide open to Chain Attack, now you bought yourself another turn, and with Janemba, that's all you really need is another turn. That's also why we're playing the Reality Benders, that way we can only tap 1 to make them mill 2, and then leave our You're Wide Opens, like, readily available.
I like You're Wide Open in these, like, dirtily slower blue decks. So while while the card is actually terrible, in the decks where it's good, it feels amazing.
Also, people, sorry if I sound bad. I'm a little sick.
So tell us about your sideboard, too.
So, sideboard. I'm kind of just going old school on the sideboard since we don't really know a whole lot of what to expect. 3 Awakening Talipans just in case we need them against things like Victory Strike and other decks that aren't going to attack us and let us awaken. 2 Mafuba for those same reasons. We'll also bring it in against like Gogeta 7 just to see if we get lucky. The 4th You're Wide Open against decks like Chain Attack Zeno. 2 unexpected turn for aggro decks. It's not like super great against veggies, but it can be good against other like super duper aggro decks. You just wipe their whole board because they don't respect it. 1 Dende for the ramp deck, something like Gogeta 7. You probably wouldn't bother with this in Gogeta ramp, but deck's playing objection. These 3 Vegetas, the counterplay ones, or counter ones, I guess I should say. These are kind of like the flex spot. I haven't got to test them yet, but in theory, it's just a way to help swing the mirror in our favor. 2 Toa Dimension Leapers. These are for Shenjita because they play it, and then you can counterplay it into play, and you have another blocker set up to block an attack. And then 1 Power Overseeing Time for the mirror match.
What do you think about this list, Danny?
So, as you guys know, I play Janemba a lot. I'm kind of on the blue-yellow build right now because I like, out of all the testing I've done, into like Gogeta 7, Frieza Prison, like Aggro Pan and stuff like that, it feels really good. Shane kind of hit on earlier how it feels at worst like a 50-50 match. When I'm playing the yellow version, I don't ever feel uncomfortable with it, and I really like the Champa. So when you play into Gogeta 7, you just play the Champa and it's good. But I like this build because I like the Toki Toki engine, whereas the blue-yellow build doesn't have really enough room for that. And I'm a pretty big advocate for Reality Bender. 4 is different to me. I'm not saying it's bad. I just I don't know how I'd feel about it without the testing. But I agree that since it's a 1-drop that has deflect, like they can waste a Vegeta the Cruel on it or whatever they'd like. But at the end of the day, it is only a 1-drop guy that mills 2. So I like that idea of it. It seems to be that Agent of Destruction is kind of falling out of favor. One of the things I would think to maybe switch around with is maybe taking one of the Furthering Destruction Champas out for another Kami. Kami, a lot of people play into Kami really easily when they're trying to go for a game and they don't understand how many negates Janemba can have, especially if you're running like Supreme Kai of Time and they're playing a very heavily 2-drop related deck. Supreme Kai of Time, the Time Disruptor.
Yeah, you could very easily like get them to overextend and then Kai them, and all of a sudden they are dead to Kami.
I mean, this might be a bit of a hot take, but I feel like if I cut anything for the second Kami, it would probably be Unyielding.
And that's pretty fair. You're not trying to be like a hyper aggro turn 2, turn 3 deck where you would really need the Unyielding.
I think you're missing the spot of the deck if you take out an Unyielding. I'm not going to lie. Maybe that's just me and how I'm used to playing Janemba, but Unyielding does so many things for you that you don't even think that it does. Specifically, if you're on the play and on turn 2 onto like a red-green deck, a lot of the times they're going to have some energy, maybe 1 energy up because they're playing aggressive. Maybe into Prison Rules Frieza, it's not as good. But everything else going turn 3, Childish Heart, getting a swing in, Unyielding, then getting your Janemba Agent of Destruction or into an aggro matchup, Unyielding does wonders that you wouldn't even think that it does, because your Childish Heart gets a swing for either 24 or 19k, your leader goes up to 20k, and then you get a Janemba Agent of Destruction or Demon Sword Janemba. So that's 3 swings and wood removal, and Unyielding Spirit allows you to do that on turn 3. And if you go into Agent of Destruction, you draw a card and you untap the energy, which you desperately need in this deck.
The only other card I could honestly see myself cutting for it is one of the Bardogs.
You could possibly, you can't.
It could be an all too easy, I think.
This like, is where the deck gets complicated. I don't think you need 2 Champas in the main board. In the sideboard, I would agree that siding 1 in. But the one in the main board typically just does it because in game 1, you're typically going to do what you're trying to do, which is play the mill game. And then if they're not expecting the hits, because a lot of players, especially in earlier rounds of events, get killed very easily with life by Janemba just because they're so worried about playing conservatively. They don't draw the cards in their hand, so therefore they can't out-combo everything without losing their hand. You touched on the all too easies you weren't so sure about. One of the best feelings in the deck is when you go Bardock, Awaken Instincts, and then you pitch the all too easy, and effectively, yeah, you've ditched a card, but you haven't really lost anything.
I mean, you still have to lose a card from hand to activate the all too easy. So technically, you have lost a card, but you haven't lost a card in the essence of like something you could utilize in another fashion.
Yeah, And All Too Easy also bounces a 1-drop, which a lot of people kind of forget about. I know it hasn't been out that long yet, but that's relevant, especially into like maybe a Pan matchup, or maybe you're playing into Vegeta Baby, something with like the intensifying power Trunkses and stuff like that.
So, I mean, my thought process on the Kami is this. You only typically need to resolve it once to swing the game in your favor. As
Correct.
long as it's not in your life, you're fine. And with Toki Toki, I have 3 Kami. Now, if it's life, then that's just bad luck, and well, shit happens.
One of the problems with Kami in this meta, in my opinion, is that the decks that you want it against, not all of them it will resolve against. For example, red-green Pan, they can just Vegeta the Cruel the Kami.
Correct. What a lot of people don't get though, so if you watch like Devin Buttersworth and Dahan play, which when I watched them play in Dallas, which is kind of how I like to set my play style, is by watching those guys because they're really good with the deck. You'll see them play Kami turn 1, and then they'll just sit there. And if their opponent doesn't have a lot of removal, it's just a threat. You have to sit there. No, first of all, now you know that I'm running Kami, which obviously you knew anyways, but it's just a reminder. So it kind of helps you with that mental game of, hey, if you overextend, I'm going to punish you. This deck very easily gets over 2 or 3 swings.
I don't think there's going to be any aggro decks in this meta that can't answer a Kami that's just sitting on the board. Like, not any that are going to be relevant at top tables. Like, even if you just like look at skill list, Krillin just pops it, you know?
I just think that the blocker is going to be more relevant to the meta.
I do think the blocker is good. If I was playing the mono blue build, I would be playing this. I like this deck a lot, and I like your theory. The side deck I would change almost entirely, but that's player preference.
One thing I like that Shane did here was the inclusion of Supreme Kai of Time Disruptor over Striving. With the popularity increase of the red-green Pan list playing our teammate Robert's kind of techiness that we all discussed in our group chat with the Son Goku Vanilla plus Piccolo, Striving just doesn't stop that combo, and it actually will minus you cards, trying to set up defensive plays against any 2-drop or lower aggro. Whereas like the Kai, you can play out after they've played their Piccolo, or you can play it, like you can play it and then combo with it and stuff like that, So like even if they do pop it and you lose 2 cards to a Piccolo, you've still gotten the skill off, and it still locks out their 2-drops.
Yeah, agreed.
Plus, card replacement is valuable.
But no, I like this list a lot, dude. I think you did a really good job with it, and I think it's very solid. Again, I think all the tweaks realistically are just player preferences, but I think the theory is good. I like the inclusion of your wide open.
That Awakening Talent Pan's not necessary, but that's not a risk I'd be willing to take this.
I think if you do not play at least 2 Awakening Talent Pan in the side or some form of Awakening, you're probably missing the mark on Janemba, especially into like decks like Triple Flash. You really, really need that negate on your leader more than you can possibly understand sometimes.
So I got a question then. You mentioned Triple Flash in regards to like wanting the negate. So how does Triple Flash beat you if you're at 8 life?
So they're going to be playing the Sun Gohan leader, right? Because that's the big Triple Flash deck that's out right now. Because that kills them.
Sure.
It gets you to 1 or to 2 on turn 3. I played Janemba into a buddy Josh. He's actually really good with that Triple Flash deck. It's kind of scary. But so every time it swings, you take the life, and well, its effect is just to deal the 1 damage, right? And then it swings. Well, then I have to pitch a 5k, or I have to do the 1 for 10k. So he can get you to 4 really easily.
Okay.
But the way that you should play into Janemba is you should get it to 5. You should hit it with Triple Flash and go to 2, and then you just go Nappa Nappa and you lose the game. There's nothing you can do.
All right.
Or what you do is you take
open.
That, which is fair. But assuming that they go first, they're going to get their thing off. You have to draw the You're Wide Open. You have to leave up the energy for it, as well as you have to hope that they don't have it again, and then again, and then again. Because it's a really easy combo to get off, especially with that new Wish card, Familiar Bonds.
Something kind of neat here is that you can actually shut down the combo from being repeatable under certain circumstances because of your wide open. So, like, normally bouncing the card to the hand is pretty terrible, but if they've already attacked with their Gohan leader and then, like, comboed the 3-drop into the yard, then they go and Familial Bonds into play, you can your wide open it back to their hand, and then they have to set it up all over again.
Yeah.
So, like, I think we have the tools to combat that kind of strategy, but I do get what you mean. I do agree that Awakening Talent Pan is probably necessary in the sideboard. It's just weird because the only decks where you would rue not having pans was against Shenron Gogeta, I think, and the Victory Strike decks.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Honestly,
like, if they don't kill you by attacking, then they're not winning because you're Janemba.
I feel like you're probably better off not having it against Shenron Gogeta. Like, you just stay at 8 life.
Right, and just take, like,
and
hope
then
to
get,
take 2 hits and negate one, right?
Right,
Yeah.
then you have your leader negate, and then you also have, assuming you saw one, the drop negate.
Well, I mean,
And
if you're at 8 life, you're not getting your leader effect off.
honestly, I don't think Shenron Gogeta can really beat Janemba now with all these blockers, because then they have to play the 5-drop, and then that's just 2 more cards up.
They can beat you. They just have to play methodically, and they also have to get kind of lucky.
There's a lot of variance that goes into it for sure. I think this list has a lot of the tools needed to compete, and I'd like to see it in some playtesting for sure.
Like, against Shenron Gogeta, I think you just, like, you get the 1-drop blocker in play, and then that's the only thing you leave in play so they can't get it back into your deck. And then they Shenron Gogeta. At this point, let's just say you have the drop negate in your discard. Then you counterplay the other blocker because you're post-board. Now you've got 2 blockers and negate in your discard, plus your leader negate, plus whatever you drop. Like, good luck, fam.
Yep.
And I mean, it's still one of those things where, like, you have to, all the cards have to line up for that to work, right? And in card games in general. But you definitely have more tools now to win that matchup than you did before.
Right, and the matchup was, like, favorable for Shenjita, like, just barely before. So I think it's switched in favor of Janemba.
So I think we can move on to our next deck. Next deck was
Well,
Danny's.
fine.
I mean, we discussed this deck pretty well, I think. But we'll move on to Danny's deck, which is Red Frieza Prison. This deck has seen a lot of popularity recently, with the introduction of Denial of Hope being the biggest card, and Kaioken as the newest finisher. I think there's some unique facets to this deck that a lot of people aren't really exploring, and there are some traps that people are going to fall into with this deck, but in the right hands, I think it's super powerful. Why don't you tell us about your list a little bit, Danny?
Yeah, so this is what, if I was going to Philly this weekend, I would choose between 2 decks, which would be Janemba and this, and I think this edges out. I thought about it pretty hard. I think this list is good, and I settled on this list because I think people kind of sleep on the Golden Frieza, the Indomitable Emperor, because if you resolve that card and they don't have a way to get rid of it and they're at 4 life, chances are they just lose. There's just no way around it, and I think that people not including that kind of are missing the mark, especially when Kaioken is kind of easy to get around, and so is Bobbity, especially with the Denial of Hope mirror match. You Denial of Hope their chain attack, I guess they're done. You Denial of Hope Bobbity, I guess they're done. There's just a lot of things that you can do that a lot of people don't think about. So I think the Golden Frieza is a big card. So I only play 3 of the chain attacks, 3 of the Bobbities, and 3 of the Debros, and 4 of the Kaioken, and that's kind of the Bobbity engine that people are running. And then I do play 1 of the Berry Blue, the Negotiator, that steals a card. Well, I think Bobbity is an incredible combo. Sometimes you don't always hit it, which is why you run the Quick Shift Berry Blue in order to pitch back your Kaiokens back into the deck to pitch them out. Ideally, you should wait until turn 5, pitch the Kaiokens back, and then just hope you don't draw them again. I play 4 of the Loyal Kikonos because realistically, this deck is just Denial of Hope deck until turn 6. That's all this deck is. Yeah, sure, turn 3 you live to fight, and then you go from there. But the Loyal Kono essentially makes it to where you have 8 denials of hope, or whatever you want to have. We went over the Quick Shift Berry Blue. The Negotiator steals a card, so that's kind of hard to pass up. Deburo, when he comes out, he becomes a 35k dual attack double strike when you have the Bobbity out, so that's pretty powerful. And it definitely gives you 3 more targets to hit if you don't hit the Kaioken along with the Berry Blue. And sometimes that's enough to steal a game.
I like how it's just a mono red threat that isn't hit by Denial of Hope, that you can still just cast.
Yeah, and that's definitely a factor into why I would play 3. Maybe 4 is the right answer, but I just don't think so.
Being a 0-5k, it's definitely not that big of a deal if you wanted to play a 4th one, as opposed to like how the fact that you have to trim down on some numbers of your other cards because they're so expensive.
Yeah, so if you notice, I mean, other than the Deburo, we're literally only playing 5 0-5Ks. And that's kind of where the inclusion of the 4 Kaba's Awakening is. Everyone's playing the Kaba's Awakening, and everyone's playing Afterimage. Not everyone's playing. Is that all you've got? I think you should play 2. Something I don't see a lot is the 2 Transcendent Strike that I have in here. I like it a lot. It feels really, really comfortable to cast because a lot of things are 20k right now, and it just helps you spot remove, especially if something's out there early. Maybe they take first, so you don't have a chance to Denial of Hope their nice 2-drop, whatever they have. So it's just good to have.
I know that Dom liked the card, and I like it a good bit too. It's just like, it's weird in the fact that it's only, I think, good in that exact situation that you described where you can't denial something, so instead you can transcend it after it's been played, because they kind of fill the same role in that regard.
Yeah.
Another thing you don't really see is new model scouter.
Yeah, so I like the new model. I'm not sure that 4 is the correct answer. I think what I should do is I should go up to Live to Fight Another and maybe only run 3 Scouters. But I like the Scouters, 1, because I am running the 2 freezes, or I'm running 3 freezes, sorry. But also because a lot of the times you don't have the Berry Blue when you need her. The put 2 back, draw 2, or the Loyal Kono. You definitely want to see the Loyal Kono early, so you can start recycling your Denial of Hopes, because sometimes you don't always see multiple and you need to in order for this deck to live.
I like that you can actually find the secret rare Frieza off of New Model Scouter, is that correct?
Yes, you can, and it's very once you get to like turn 6 and 7 and you cast New Model and you add it, or you add it early, there's kind of always that threat that they're on the clock.
Right, like right? I like that fact that you can always just kind of pick it up out of nowhere.
So, and then I do, of course, I run the 4 Denial, it's Denial of Hope deck. The 1 Final Guardian, I am a bit iffy on this card, but man, I just love the fact that if you play into the mirror match, at least you have another negate if they rip it, right? So that feels good. And then 3 Live to Fights. Again, I think maybe the correct solution is 4 Live to Fights and 3 New Model Scouters, because New Model Scouter is pretty good to do on turn 1.
I personally think every deck should be playing one of the new negate cycle if you're not playing any Overrealm, or if you're playing minimal Overrealm, because it's just like, it's almost free, you know? The fact that you could have it in the yard, you could use one early and then use it again late, it just feels like a lot of value. That and in a format that's full of Kaioken, it being a negate that they can't take away from you completely is super relevant.
Yeah. And then again, like I was saying, I am really in love with the Frieza the Finisher and the Domino Emperor. Frieza the Finisher like literally helps blow up your opponent's board, so that's really good, especially when it can become a 5-drop, which the New Model Scouters help with, which is kind of a reason why I'm playing them. So I'll go on to the side deck, but I play 2 Planet M2s, or I would, the 4th Chain Attack, and then 3 Dark Duo Deburos, 2 Foreseen Hits, 2 Lightning Fast Hits, 2 Nappas, and then 3 Zenos. I like the potential to transition into a burn deck, maybe if you're playing into the mirror match. Or maybe not the mirror match, but just anything that plays a little slower, you know? Maybe if you're playing into Janemba, you're definitely going to want to side in the 3 Dark Duo Deburos just to kind of help pick apart their hands and the foreseen hits. Because especially if you play into someone like Shane's build, your Denial of Hope isn't going to do too much, except into their Fat Boys. And I think that's kind of when you can start taking cards out and switching them in for that more burn, take their hand apart kind of deck, and include the Lightning Fast Hits and the Nappas, because not everyone expects that. And then the Zeno is just for, you know, it's Zeno. I think you have to have it somewhere.
I think I'm not sure the Debura combination plus like burn stuff is actually relevant versus the mirror match. Mainly because like you're not cutting Denial of Hope in the mirror, I don't think.
No. That's why I took it back.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. I don't
right.
think I would play that in the mirror.
But I think it's worth expressing why, so people can really like grasp that. You know, Denial of Hope can hit multiple targets if they're played simultaneously, and you can like if your opponent plays a Bobbity and like tries to double Devora, you can just denial both of them.
Yeah,
and that's not something you ever want to have happen to you. So, like he said, he took it back, but I thought it was worth expressing why.
Yeah. I can agree.
So yeah, like I like the Zenos. I think the burn plant is kind of cheeky, but it looked like it was just kind of thrown together, right? I think M2 is super powerful though.
Yeah, M2 is definitely a staple that I would almost. I had a lot of hard time finding it in the main because God, do I want Planet M2 in the main board? It just helps a lot.
It'd be the kind of card that you would put in over Transcendent Strike, I think.
Yeah. Depends on what the matchup is, right?
Right. Well, like I said, you put 2 in the main and then the other 2 in the board, and usually it's like one of those things where you could swap them, you know?
Yeah. And so into the mirror, right? The Frieza the Finisher and the Golden Frieza and Dominable Emperor, I think, are the play. I think that's what you want to try and do into the mirror because they can't stop the Finisher because it's not Denial of Hopeable, and they can't stop the Indomitable Emperor. So I think the play is you take out 2 new model scouters, or you take out something else for the Planet M2s. That way it helps take your opponent's life down, and maybe they're not expecting the freezes if they didn't see them, or maybe they're just not thinking about them, because then it makes them have to do a 10k or the Kappa's Awakening, so it helps get rid of those early. So I think that's definitely a good. That's what's kind of my thought process, as well as Kid Ku, because Kid Ku's still relevant.
What do you think? What do you think, Shane?
I think the list is fine. I think you definitely need to have Zeno in the sideboard, which is good that you do. Like, there's a lot of like aggro matchups where the deck needs to be able to chain Zeno on turn 4 if it needs.
Yep.
Like against like starter Broly, when RJ and I were playing it, like he really needed to see chain Zenos on turn 4 to get my Brolys off the.
Yeah.
Because by the time about turn 4 would hit, he'd be running out of negates.
I do have a question as to like is it the lack of inclusion of any Overwhelm? I understand it conflicts with Frieza the Finisher's cost reduction, and it doesn't synergize with Final Guardian or Loyal Kikono, but is it worth playing like a one of finishing Overwhelm card like Scientist Fu or something like that?
So I thought about that. I like the 6 drop, or it's a 10 drop, but it's 6 Overwhelm. That makes your opponent not be able to do anything.
Yeah, Big Daddy Fu.
I think that or the new rip a card out of your opponent's hand is pretty good. I think
either of the new Fus, or either the new Fu or Big Daddy Fu. You're saying?
Yeah, I think I would take out 1 Kaioken for it in the main board, just because you really don't want to draw a Kaioken, but you do want to hit it. I think that's really the only thing that I would have an Overwhelm for. I know that there is an argument for playing a more Overwhelm style, and if that was the case, I would take out the freezes. But honestly, trying to cast the freeze on turn 5 or 6 is very important, I think.
Yeah, I kind of see that. I think if you were to like shift more towards Overwhelm, you would like trim a Kikono and the 3 freezes for like multiple copies of something like Supreme Kai of Time, Light's Guide, you know? Something that will draw cards, power up your leader, give you more value out of it. Card replacement is good, but it's not so expensive that you can't resolve multiple over the course of the game.
Yep.
Yeah, I like this list a lot. I don't think I had any other any really... Like, obviously the sideboard isn't ideal, but I think the hardest matchup for this deck are like the compressed aggro decks, because you don't have a lot of the same tools to stop them from being aggressive until your turn 3 if you're on the draw, or your turn 4 if you're on the play. So decks like the Dende Scuffle Time deck have a pretty good matchup into this, just because they can pressure so hard and you only have so much energy to defend with.
Yeah, I mean, I think we played that mirror match, didn't we? And it came down to, oh, did I go first so I can denial of hope? Yeah, okay. Well, then good luck.
And even
Oh,
then,
I didn't go first? Oh, well, shit.
like the third game we played, I believe, I went first, and you were on 2 energy, and you couldn't even denial because tapping out meant you were guaranteed dead.
Yep.
And like you played 2 negates, I think you played an Is That All You Got and an After Image, and you still died.
Yeah, it was rough.
And like when you came to like taking damage, just putting attacks to 20 meant you weren't able to stop them because this deck doesn't have access to super combos, and most of its defensive power is in 10k 1 costs.
Yep. In all fairness, you went crazy in our game 3. Like, that hand was crazy.
That's kind of what the deck does, but I do agree it was slightly above average. But yeah, no, otherwise I think this is a solid mid-range / control strategy that a lot of people are probably going to be more prepared for now, especially if it does well this weekend in Philly. But like that doesn't mean the deck's going to be just shoved out of the meta either. It's not one of those one and done type of decks.
Right.
No.
My favorite part is that Danny is actually being smart and not completely relying on Chain Bobbity, because Chain Bobbity is a freaking trap.
Like, it's very good, and like against black leaders, it's so good because they don't have a way to stop you. But against every other color, except, well, I guess the yellow, except yellow as well. The yellow leaders don't have a way to stop you either, because Cuffless Fury sucks. But otherwise, like red, blue, and green leaders all have a way to stifle chain attack, and red leaders can stifle Bobbity as well. So relying on that engine will put you into a tough position, definitely.
Yep. To be fair, yellow has Champa.
Yeah.
New Champa counterplay, and that counter is very, very good into the Kaioken.
Right, like it's definitely pretty good against Kaioken. I agree. It doesn't stop them. It doesn't stop the play, so you still have to answer the board the next turn. But sometimes that's all you need is one more turn.
Yep.
Yeah, if you're playing Janemba, you don't have to kill them because you'll just mill them.
Yeah.
If you don't
exactly.
have to answer the Kaioken, they'll, your opponent just die.
Yep, absolutely. Though technically against Bobbity, Chomp only taps down 1 Kaioken, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. It only does. Yeah.
But that's probably enough, if you're playing Janemba.
Yeah. So.
Like double Kaioken, uncontested, you're dead. But single Kaioken, you can manage.
Yeah, agreed. So let's get into your build, Marcus. It looks,
Sure.
I'm ready for this, man.
This is pretty similar to the build that Robert Reitz, one of our teammates, did well with at Gen Con. I've made a few changes and some adjustments for my own personal liking. For starters, it's very similar in some of the details, and I did get some information from him when I was building this list. But one of the things I made sure to do was to not include too many 10k 1 costs. I wanted the maximum amount of arrival I could really fit, and so that forced me to cut back on some of the double shots, which doesn't feel good because double shot's one of your best cards in your deck. But this deck's trying to play the kind of game where you can use all of your energy on both turns of the game, either your turn or your opponent's turn, all the way till turn 4 when you usually kill them. You'll notice there's a lack of chain attack and Zenos in the main board. There's only 2 chain attacks main board, and that's because we put the Zenos in the side, and we usually don't want to play the chain attack out because unless you're evolving, it's a 4-cost card that's hit by every counterplay in the game that's relevant outside of an unexpected turn, and we just don't want to. We just don't ever want to be stifled by that kind of soul-crushing play, 2 1-drop Trunks it feels odd, but when we're not all in on Chain Attack Zeno, we don't need to force ourselves to try to make Chain Attack cost 3. The 3 Broly Demonic Origins is an addition purely because we want to charge a dual colored card turn 1 to make Vegeta the Cruel live on all sequential turns. Sometimes you cast it, you draw a card and make them discard a card, which might be relevant. Sometimes you just combo with it to make your arrival live, but usually it's energy. 3 Trunks Surge of Energy, we'd play 4, but we need room for a bunch of cards, and again, not all in on Chain Attack Zeno, so we don't need as many evolved targets as possible. The 2 Burst Attack are kind of because this deck functions as an aggro deck. and in one facet. And when you're playing the aggro strategy to arrival and other things like that, or comboing to make your dimension supports live, you'll end up running out of cards in hand. So, like, a play you can do turn 2 if you went first is just, like, attack with your leader, combo burst attack, and then Familial Bonds it into play, draw a card to 4 cards in hand, and then attack with a 20k crit and draw 2 more. So you end up with 6 cards in hand, 3 cards in play, and apply critical pressure, which never feels bad. Though our ideal turn 2 play is almost always playing a Digging Deep off of a Familial Bonds. Robert's lists all were playing 4 Familial Bonds, and while I think the card is very good, I do think playing too many extra cards is dangerous. You'll notice a lack of 4 Afterimage in this list as well. We're playing 4 Counterplays main deck and 10 1-for-10s, so I didn't think that I could afford to main deck all 4 Afterimage techniques, so we shoved one in the sideboard. But so, like I said earlier, 2 Digging Deeps because of that. 2 Fearless Pan is pretty standard. It's just great. Will win you a lot of games. The 1 Faded Kaioken is just another arrival card. Sometimes it'll kill people, and sometimes you just play it as a 20k green Goku that'll trigger your Special Beam Cannon Piccolo. But most of the time it's just another arrival red-green card. Gogeta's is kind of insane, being able to pop anything 4 cost or less, even on your opponent's turn, barring barrier, of course, and drawing a card kind of replaces Double Shot in the fact that, like, your opponent attacks with something less than 20,000 power, let's say it's 15,000, and you just, like, combo a Vegeta the Cruel or a Goku and a red card, all of a sudden you can arrive, kill a secondary attacker, and draw a card. It feels similar to playing Double Shot, but the pressure is more relevant when your turn comes back around to you, and it doesn't come into play tapped, so they can't attack it. The main combo that this deck has that's pretty new, just because of the SR Piccolo, is using OG Vanilla Goku with Dimension Support Trunks to you play Dimension Support, bring up Goku, pump Goku with Pan, draw a card, and the Piccolo can come into play for free, either popping any battle card they have or popping a 2-drop or less, ignoring barrier, and forcing them to discard 2 cards. It's one of your most aggressive lines you have. So, like, back on the topic of how this whole deck was formulated, was just have all the aggressive lines possible that you can pump out, or being able to shift to that defensive mode, so you can be aggressive with your arrival or defend with your arrival. You have Dimension Support as cheap, aggressive options that play multiple threats, or you can hold up energy for Vegeta the Cruel and Afterimage techniques.
I do think it's worth mentioning real quick while we're on the topic of Dimension Support into Goku. Just because it happened to Robert a lot at Gen Con. A lot of people were calling Judge, wondering why in the world his Goku's getting the buff when Dimension Support was played first and his auto was resolving. And it's because of the way autos stack in this game. So you play Dimension Support, his auto goes pending, Pan's auto goes pending, and you choose which order you want to resolve them in. So you resolve the Trunks first to go get the Goku, then you resolve Pan, and by the time Pan's resolving, the Goku's in play, thus you can target it.
Yeah, and I mean, technically, Pan's auto goes into pending for both of them. It just, in this game, once per turn, autos can only resolve once. They can trigger multiple times before they've resolved. And so it goes into pending for both Trunks and Goku. But like you said, because the Goku's in play after you've resolved the Trunks, you can choose which Pan auto to resolve. And so only one of the 2 will resolve, but we choose to resolve it on the Goku for the sake of playing Piccolo for free and pumping up our critical attacker. Notably,
I just wanted to bring that up since so many people called Judge on Raw.
And it's totally fair. I mean, it's something that some people will definitely overlook. Notably, we can't play the 20k 2-drop Goku because it's a Goku GT. Some people may not realize that, but this does have to be a green Sun Goku, not Sun Goku GT, with 20,000 power. For Vegeta the Cruel, gives us a better matchup versus Janemba, and gives us some play against the other, like, slightly aggressive mid-rangey style decks, because we can rip cards from their hand, draw cards during their turn, and blow up their stuff. And we're playing Scramble as our Seeker of choice. I like the fact that you can just kind of all-in somebody that's at 4 life with a Double Striker, and then arrive this into play and see if they can stop it. Like, it's
Which is
not
pretty
easy to
hard
stop.
considering his auto.
Right. So, like, sure, there's lists like what we're playing here that have a lot, that don't actually have that many 2-cost and lower. Like, we have our 2-drop Gokus, Trunks, Broly, Trunks, and super combos. That's it. So we could probably combo out of it if they did it to us and don't combo over, like, let's say 50,000. But outside of super combos, it's hard to stop that kind of push. Our sideboard gives us the ability to flex a little bit. We have the 4th Afterimage and another Is That All You Got for the aggressive matchups. 4 Denial of Hope come in when Vegeta the Cruel isn't good, but Denial is good. So against, like, the Chain Bobbity Red Frieza decks, we just bring in Denials over the Vegeta the Cruels, and that lets us denial their Bobbities or their chain attacks or whatever it is that they play until they get to turn 7. And that lets us also slam our Kaioken on turn 7 if we don't have 20 red or green cards in our yard, which we usually won't, but it is an option. And Frieza doesn't necessarily pressure your life that hard, so you could hold your Awakening till turn 7 pretty easily if you were on the play. We have 3 Zeno, just for the matches we're going to want it. We bring the chain attacks and the Zenos in at the same time. You can also bring the chain attacks in against, like, yellow decks and black decks where you don't expect a lot of counterplays, so your deck is just more aggressive. And 2 unexpected turn for decks like Skillless and Scuffle Time.
Nice.
But yeah, like, I'm really hyped on this deck, and I think it's pretty powerful. But I want to know what y'all think.
So I like it. I don't know. I would include more faded Kaioken Son Goku just because I like that card. Just me. I do understand that the deck is tight though.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where you could, like, swap a Broly Demonic Origins for a second faded Kaioken, and it would probably end up with the same result in the end, that you're going to charge one of the 2 turn 1.
Yeah, I like the Scramble, the inclusion of Scramble. I know it is 5 energy, so that is a bit unfortunate. But again, like you were saying, not a lot of people expect it, and especially if they have a low hand total, they're just doomed.
And if they do expect it, and they're just blowing the gates because they don't want you to get into your combo step, then that's working in your favor anyways.
Yeah, I think this is one of those decks, and you and I discussed this, where when you hit the ideal hand, which is, turn 2 or turn 3 Dimension Support Trunks into Son Goku, and then Piccolo out, I feel like you're in such a hot... Like, you take such the upper hand that it is fucking insane. But if you don't hit that, and if you don't have the Digging Deeps, then it becomes rough. Granted, I like how this version has the stall out plan of the Vegeta the Cruels. I do think that is a wonderful card. So I actually want to play this list, and it is definitely something I might play at our prelims this weekend. But I like it a lot, and I don't really see too much room for improvement in the main board other than, like I was saying, the faded Kaioken. I like the sideboard. It's really solid. The inclusion of the Zeno, just for the decks that you need it into, because Zeno is really good in that aspect, especially since you get to draw 6.
Yeah, if you're not playing Zeno in your 65s, then you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, especially when you get to take such good advantage of it.
Like, let's not forget how good that combo is just because it's a new meta.
I agree.
Yeah, because on, turn 4, if you haven't awakened yet, you can Zeno, grab your 6, then you can play, like, Trunk Surge of Energy, and voila, you're kicking your opponent's ass. So
the only thing I'm a little nitpicky about is I really think you want a 4th Digging Deep, but that's about the only thing I could nitpick.
That's something Robert's list had updated to, was playing 4 Digging Deep, because he typically stated it as his best turn 2 play in almost every single game. And, like, you could find a spot for a 4th Digging Deep. Honestly, you could cut Intensifying Power Trunks entirely to go to 4 Trunks Surge of Energy and 4 Digging Deep, and that wouldn't be that bad. But we do like the 1 energy Self-Awakening off of Trunks outside of being an evolved target. So, like, it's just a matter of, like, finding room, whether or not it's trimming a Vegeta the Cruel or trimming a Intensifying Power. But I think that's where our flexibility really lies when it comes to that specific card.
I think you just trim a burst attack.
Maybe. I mean, we could always put another burst attack in the sideboard for, like, hand control matchups, because Pan notoriously has always been kind of bad versus hand control, because she doesn't...
Honestly, I think I think you should just trim both burst attack for digging deep and another chain attack.
And maybe I liked burst attack a lot when I was playtesting it. It was never bad, and the fact that like I said, turn 2. Let's say you're playing against a deck like Shenron Gogeta. Sure, digging deep gives you a lot of pressure, but the critical damage from burst attack is also super relevant, and you want to combo aggressively to do like arrival stuff, so it's good there too. But like you said, maybe we just cut that, put it in the sideboard, and up our counts on other powerful cards. So that's totally reasonable.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. Like, don't get me wrong, I still think burst attack's really good. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's just with the green stuff, the list is super tight.
Like, we could probably cut a chain attack from the sideboard and an unexpected turn for the 2 burst attacks, then put a chain attack back in the main deck with the 4th digging deep.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Alright, well, I mean, I like this deck, and I hope to do well with it, that's for sure. And this is what I would play, like this whole topic, if we were going to Philly this weekend. And it's probably what I'm going to play in Orlando. But I am also considering Toa, personally.
So let's talk about prelims, because we are going to do our prelims this weekend.
Sure.
I mean, and as you guys know, we're going to be testing a hell of a lot on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, and I'm bringing my try-hard panties to the prelim.
Hey, nice little thong going on there, baby girl. All right, so
Pink and lacy.
woo! So
I'm sorry, green and lacy. My bad.
Let's talk about these, right? So for this weekend, is this what we're going to be playing this weekend? Obviously, Freeze is one of my top contenders. I might change it out. I'm not going to lie, and I know some of you guys are listening. I really, really want to give some people the hard D with this deck.
Well, look at it this way: your invite will pass down if you give it to them. So then you give them the hard D.
Yeah, but if it doesn't pass down, then that
afterwards.
means I got the hard D, and I just don't know about that. The military gives that to me enough, man. So, but
I probably will play my deck. Probably doesn't need to borrow some cards. Wink, wink, hint, hint, Danny.
Yeah.
I don't have any Janemba cards. What are you talking about?
I would need
I
to borrow
need
some
also
cards
use
if I was going to play my list. Like, I don't have the Faded Kaioken, I don't have the Piccolos, I don't have a Scramble, stuff like that. But
I don't have the Toa Dimension Leapers or the All Too Easies.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Funny enough, if I could just borrow 3 regulators, I could totally play Toa this weekend. Because I have the
You
leader.
could probably find regulators. And
So, that's definitely an option, because I think Toa is very, very good. It's just that I'm more comfortable with Pan and the red-green playstyle, and I think the flexibility of Denial of Hope and Vegeta the Cruel will lend me to more victories than the power of Toa plus Mira.
Oh,
Yeah.
So let's also talk about the fact that I don't know if they announced this way earlier and I just overlooked it, but the fact that PPG is doing that 25K player championship thing in Orlando in January.
Yeah, we're doing that too. We gotta go get ourselves 20 Gs.
Yo,
I mean,
can you
we already have our
imagine?
invite, so let's go.
Wait, does Dallas count?
Correct. All 3 of us, I'm pretty sure, are on the invite list. Marcus got his invite at Celebrations. You got your invite in Dallas. I got mine in Atlanta.
Oh, I got mine at Celebrations too. Celebrations counted for that?
I'm pretty sure because Marcus is on the invite list.
Hey.
How do I look up the invite list?
And he dropped out of Atlanta and Dallas. So
Well, we can talk about that later,
Celebrations.
though. I don't think we had any other specific topics for this week's video, did we? Anything we need to
No, I was
touch on?
just trying to talk about tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, we got a whole bunch of tournaments coming up. We got the Dabbers 2K next month. We got Orlando next month. We got Nats in October. And January, a 25K potential tournament. All of that sounds super exciting. So I'm excited to see where organized play goes for the next few months.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting. And everyone should especially make sure to look into the 2K at Dabbers in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yep. But otherwise, guys, this has been the GnG Elite Dragon Ball Super Team. You can find us on Facebook and here on YouTube, obviously. Until next time, stay elite.